one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Bill Carlos, 2nd Ward.
Joe Conti, 3rd Ward.
Michael Safone, 4th Ward.
Stefan Krakauer, 5th Ward.
Ann Shershin, 6th Ward.
Todd Tancredi, Supervisor.
Felicia Salvatore, Town Clerk.
Adriano Dierna, Attorney to the Town.
All right, we've got quite a decent agenda tonight. First thing on our agenda, though, is by law, I was required to give the supervisor's budget to the town clerk yesterday by 3, and I did that, and now she's giving it to the town board, so we're going to have a brief overview of the supervisor's budget, and from here it'll go to the finance committee, and they'll have a month and a half or so to massage it and make whatever changes they feel are warranted, and then it'll come back to the town board for final approval. So I'd like to ask Mr. Wadowitz, our comptroller, to set up, and we'll give an overview of the supervisor's budget.
I don't think that microphone's on.
You're all set now.
You're good.
Testing.
Need some more lights on?
My budget is illuminating enough.
I've got about 8 or 9 slides, and as the supervisor mentioned, we're going to bring you through this briefly. I'd like to welcome Mr. Bill Carlos to your first year. Bill, we look forward to your participating. I know you'll have some good things to add. And after this, it goes to Stefan and the Finance Committee. One step away. Okay, our first slide. Todd, I'll start and then we can.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, our first slide is basically the 12 tax levies that this board controls. It starts with our general fund A, Part Town B, our largest fund of the town, highway fund. Those 3 funds make up our tax that people see on their tax bill, the tax levy. This year, the tentative budget is coming in at 1.197% on the top 3. The 12 levies, the one that counts towards the governor's 2% tax cap, on the bottom there, you see we're at 1.33%, and that's before we apply our carry forward from last year. And the cap this year is 1.56. So this tentative budget is under the governor's tax cap, starting at 1.33. The tax levy, most people will see, residents will see, based on this budget, is a 1.197%. Todd, you want to add anything on this slide?
No, you covered it. The tax increase that people are going to see, Jim, is 1.978%.
That's correct.
Right.
And here it is here. This is those top 3 numbers. 2014 adopted at $22,188,000. The tentative budget before the Finance Committee gets it is $22,628,000. That represents a 1.98% increase rounded. Now what I'm going to do is take you through a couple of the quick numbers. The assessor is here tonight, and if we have any questions, I appreciate her being here, supporting this. We have our taxable assessed valuations. We have B as the 2014 ratio that was adopted in July of this year. This is basically determining how much goes to the homestead, how much goes to the commercial. Then we allocate out the tax levy. We have our tax rates, again, just tentative. The bottom is some interesting information. Based on the values, the homestead values are down by 4.92% in the town of Poughkeepsie. That's 120 million. And commercial values are down by 26 million, or 2.1%. So basically what this is saying, although the tax rate has increased, the values of the properties have dropped by 4.92%. I'll show you
And
what
that's the assessed value is simply a function of the market, the economy, the assessor's judgment that townwide the average decrease in the home values, as Jim said, is somewhere around 4.some odd%, and then commercial is 2 or whatever. So that's a function of the market and the economy and all those kind of things.
So the next slide, all I do here is make a comparison to last year. Based on that 4.92% decrease, most folks will see, if a house was valued at $240 last year, this year it's going to be valued at $228 and change. Multiply that last year, that person with a $240,000 home with a rate of $4.6 per $1,000 of assessed value would have paid town taxes of $1,104. This year, that same homeowner, his value is down by $12,000. Multiplied by the rate, that taxpayer in that home would pay an additional $31 this year. So again, there's 2 factors, Todd, that affect it, the rate and the value dropping. This is a sheet that's off the controller's website. I voted in our information. So this is kind of the certification saying the next chart shows that based on these numbers, we're $397,290 ahead of where we want to be for that 2% cap. Again, this takes into account the carry forward we had from last year. So, and Todd, you may want to say something, but now we look at budgets, we almost have to look at 2 years in advance to see where we're going to be. So we're $397,200 going forward based on these numbers. The next slide I want to show. This is the Dutchess County. This is called the quantity change factor. Now, this is part of the 2% tax cap. What it's basically saying, the town of Poughkeepsie is 1.0029. This basically says this is new growth or significant additions to existing properties. So the governor says anything that's built new in the town, I'm not going to hold that against your tax cap. So I thought it'd be interesting just to see how we compare to other municipalities so we're at a 0.29%. That's new construction. Anything?
No, keep going.
That'd be it. That's my last slide.
Oh, all right. Doreen, could you hit the lights? So I just want to thank, first of all, the controller for his hard work over the last few months. It's, the challenge of the economy continue to impact the town of Poughkeepsie like it does every municipality and business and then property owner. Some of the changes we made in the proposed 2015 budget, as Jim said, our actual levy increase is 1.98%. We're under the cap. I would just say, I think this year there's a new plan that the governor's, put forward, and basically I want to encourage the county and the school districts to also be under the cap because my understanding of the proposals, if that happens, the residents actually get a rebate of the amount of the increase. So I think that's, everybody needs a little something, and it may not be much, but assuming everyone's under the cap, that'll happen. Budget increases for this year. We have a collective bargaining agreement in place with our PBA. That's reflected in the budget. We have a tentative agreement with CSEA that actually needs to be ratified by the town board tonight. Their increase is also reflected in the budget. Non-union and management is getting a 1% increase that is reflected in this budget, and I've also included elected officials at a 1% increase in the budget, including the town board, which I think is important. I think it's important to make sure our elected positions stay as attractive as possible, and people need to be compensated for, I believe, what they do. Let's see, some highlights. The insurance is always a challenge, as it is with everybody, personally as well as corporately, and the municipality is no different. We are increasing our health insurance, estimating a 10% across the board increase, and insurances the timing's always difficult for the town of Poughkeepsie. So, and it is for many municipalities. We don't get hard numbers until typically after the budget's done, but we typically can foresee, and we know there's going to be an increase. So we're predicting a 10% increase in insurance. Workman's comp was a bit of a surprise this year. If you remember, last year we joined the county consortium and had an increase. Well, this year our workman's comp, we were notified, is going up 45%. So we're actually, I've spoken to the county folks, they're aware of it, we're going to shop it, we can do better, we will, but that 45% increase is reflected in the budget as well. And then liability, we put a 5% increase, and we think that'll hold up. Our water rates remain flat, $2 per unit, which is 748 gallons. There's a change in the sewer rates. We're going up slightly in the sewer rates. Still makes us very, I think, attractive compared to the municipalities around us, but we have some work we need to do in terms of, the pipes. DEC's encouraging us to do some TVing and some pipe repairs and so forth. So that's going to cost some money. So we're increasing our sewer rate and actually reducing the amount that people see on their taxes. We'd like to have the sewer rate. Right now, sewers are billed through the tax and through usage, and we'd like to get to the point where it's all usage. We think that'd be more fair and equitable. So we're moving in that direction, but there is a slight increase on the usage side. New York State retirement was basically flat this year, which is good news. Last year we saw a sharp increase. We're being told next year it's supposed to decline, but our retirement is basically flat this year. And one other significant change I made to the budget is our mortgage tax receivable. It's one of the town's big revenue streams. If you buy a home in the town of Poughkeepsie or I think refinance, the town gets a piece of the action. We get a mortgage tax. And in 2008, that figure was around $2.3 million. For 2014, that figure's at $800,000. We're not going to make $800,000, so I'm reducing that another $50,000 in this year's budget. So our mortgage tax receivable, which I said is one of our big revenue streams, we're actually reducing again because we don't want to put a budget forward that we know is flawed. We want it to be balanced. We want it to be accurate. So we're reducing it $50,000 to $750,000. So over a span of 8 years, it's gone from approximately $2.3 million to $750,000. That's fairly significant, but again, unfortunately, due to the economy, we think it's warranted. So those are the major changes that we made. Jim, can you think of anything I missed? Again, like I said, we're under the cap, which I'm pleased with. The rates at this point below 2%. Finance Committee can do their thing, and if any of you want to look at the budget and see if you have any ideas, we're all ears. So we're all in this together, and we're working hard to make sure we have as cost-effective and efficient government as possible. I think we've made good strides over the years. We continue to work hard at it, and that's about it. Any questions from the board? All right, let's go right to thank you, Jim. Thanks for all your hard work. Move on directly to the public hearings. We have a few of them. First one is our special districts budgets. This is an annual event. We have to, by law, hold our special districts budgets hearing. We have to notify the residents that's taking place. There aren't significant changes typically year to year. This year's no different. Our assessor's here, though, if there's any questions, but I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules for public comment, public hearing number 1, special districts budget for 2015.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone here to speak to this public hearing? Seeing no one, I make a motion to close public hearing number 1.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Jay?
Be it resolved, the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie pursuant to a public hearing held on the first day of October 2014, 7 p.m., Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 1 Over Rocker Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, does hereby adopt the special district budgets as presented for 2015 pursuant to attached documentation. Be it further enacted that the legal notice of public hearing was posted on September 18, 2014, and published in the Poughkeepsie Journal on September 22, 2014. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. I'd like to make a motion to open public hearing number 2, Town Code Amendment Tree Preservation Law.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone here to speak to this public hearing? Seeing no one, I make a motion to close public hearing number 2.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Bill?
Be it enacted that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie pursuant to a public hearing held on the first day of October 2014 at 7 p.m. at the Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 1 Over Rocker Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, does hereby amend the Town Code by adding a new section known as Chapter 185 entitled Tree Preservation, and be it further enacted that the amendments are attached hereto and incorporated herein, and the Town Board does hereby waive a verbatim reading of said amendments, and does direct that said amendments be spread across the record as if they in fact had been read verbatim, and be it further enacted that the Town Board has previously declared its intent to act as lead agency under the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, and does declare said action to be a Type 1 action, and be it further resolved that the Town Board has reviewed the short form Environmental Assessment Form, EAF, prepared by the Director of Municipal Development, and hereby determines that, 1, the adoption of herein amendment would not have a significant adverse effect on the environment, and 2, a draft environmental impact statement will not be required for the reasons set forth in Part 2 of the EAF, and 3, a negative declaration is hereby issued, and be it further enacted that the legal notice of public hearing was posted on September 18, 2014, and published in the Poughkeepsie Journal on September 22, 2014, and be it further enacted that the town clerk notify the clerks of the surrounding municipalities of the public hearing pursuant to General Municipal Law 239-NN, and be it further enacted that said local law shall take effect immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. I'd like to make a motion to open public hearing number 3, Town Code Amendment Noise Law.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone here to speak to this public hearing? Doreen?
My only comment on this law, and it would apply to the previous law, is if these laws are in place and they are to protect the town residents, then enforcement is going to be key. So it's not enough just to have the law in place. It really needs to be enforced. So I hope if the residents do have a problem and it's brought to the town's attention that these 2 new laws will be enforced. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
Thanks, Doreen.
Seeing no one, I make a motion to close public hearing number 3.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Joe?
Be it enacted that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie pursuant to a public hearing held on the first day of October 2014 at 7 p.m. at the Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 1 Over Rocker Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, does hereby amend Chapter 139, entitled Noise, specifically the amendment to Sections 1394, Unlawful Noises. And be it further enacted that the amendments are attached hereto and incorporated herein, and the Town Board does hereby waive a verbatim reading of said amendments and does direct that the said amendments be spread across the record as if they had in fact been read verbatim. And be it further enacted that the Town Board had previously declared its intent to act as lead agency under the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, and does declare said action to be a Type 2 action. And be it further enacted that the Town Board has reviewed the short form environmental assessment form, EAF, prepared by the Director of Municipal Development, and hereby determines that 1, the adoption of the herein amendment would not have a significant adverse effect on the environment, and 2, a draft environmental impact statement will not be required for the reasons set forth in Part 2 of the EAF, and 3, a negative declaration is hereby issued, and be it further enacted that the legal notice of public hearing was posted on September 18th, 2014, and published in the Poughkeepsie Journal on September 22nd, 2014. And be it further enacted that the town clerk notified the clerks of surrounding municipalities of the public hearing pursuant to GML 239NN. And be it further enacted that said local law shall take effect immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State. So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion among the board? This law basically will restrict the operation of heavy equipment on Saturdays to between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. and holidays and Sundays to prohibit it altogether, which is a slight change in our noise ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Like to make a motion to open public hearing number 4, Fairview Commons Overlay District designation.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Well, we've got the applicant, and I think they have what will be hopefully a brief presentation, and then we'll take questions and open it up to comment once we.
So we're going to switch that over.
Hopefully you know what you're doing, because I'm not going to be much help.
There we go. Is that on the, oh, there it is. Okay. Thank you. I'm Kelly Leibel with Page Park Associates. With me here tonight, obviously, Richard Cantor and Phil Greeley, to answer any additional questions that we may have or the board may have. I just wanted to take a minute to really go through this project because there's been significant time that's been spent with your board, the planning board, all of the consultants, the applicant, and so forth. And we haven't really explained the project from the beginning to the end to you. So I'll be very quick. So we'll do a fast forward of the last few months. This is a 151 unit market rate apartment project, and this is a kind of a quick chronology so you know where we've been and where we're going. We applied back in February to this board for the PROD designation for site plan approval and for a land contour approval permit. This board, if you recall, I know it was some time ago, but it deferred this action over to the planning board for the seeker review in February of this year. The planning board then went through their seeker review of the project. They had public hearings and spent significant time working on the project, both here and out in the field with the consultants on developing the design that you'll see. Long after that, in August, the planning board made their seeker determination on August 21st and also granted the land contour change approval permit for us. We then came back before this board. There's a lot of back and forth for review of the PROD designation in September. So we were here last month. And now we switched to green. So all of the blue items are the things that have occurred, and now we're what's left on the project. So the balance of the project is we're here tonight to discuss the PROD designation with you, obviously have the public hearing. And then once we do hopefully receive your approval for this PROD designation, we go back again to the planning board. So there is some final changes and some final reviews to the plan more of like the detailed oriented components of the project that will go back before the planning board for their final review. So that's where we've been and that's where we're going. Very quickly, this is the project area. I think most of you know where we are, corner of Fairview, Fulton, and Cedar. That's the project area. It's approximately 13.98 acres, adjacent to Marist College, adjacent to Westchester Medical. This is the site plan that's been reviewed by the planning board, access onto Fulton and access onto Cedar Avenue. There is a smaller building called Building A that has 15 units and also 8,500 square feet of non-residential space on the bottom. It will primarily be the leasing office, a fitness center, a media room for the tenants of the facility only. Building B contains 78 units, and Building C contains 58 units, again for a total of 151. We've worked pretty diligently with the planning board, their engineer, the planner on developing what the appropriate mix of parking should be. And so we've developed, it's a 1.5 to 1 ratio. We have 451 parking spaces on the project. The project, it's difficult to see this, but it was just kind of a snapshot. The project does comply with all of the bulk regulations for the underlying zoning and for the PROD. So we've gone through that in great length. It also is going to be built, state-of-the-art building. So compliance with, I'm glad the building inspector is here so we can tell him now that we're going to comply with everything. So compliance with all the New York State Building Code, the New York State Energy Conservation Construction Code, all applicable sections of the New York State Fire Code, and the NFPA. So, brand new construction. We have been spending quite a bit of time with the town engineer, the town engineer's traffic consultants, the planning board, our traffic consultant, Phil Grilly, so he can certainly speak to some of these for what we would call off-site improvements. So these are improvements to the roadway system in that area that are in a poor shape, as everyone knows now. And so we're trying to fix some of the roadway the streets and some of the channelization of traffic in this area. So I'll go through that. We're primarily talking about the Fairview Avenue extension and the Fulton Street interchange. So this triangular area where the highway superintendent generally puts leaves. So I think everyone has a pretty good idea of where we are. We're also proposing some improvements over on the other side of the property over by Cedar Avenue. So I'll go through each of these at length. So this is the Fulton Fairview Avenue. Right now, the Fairview Avenue extensions operate as two-way directional roadways. And so it appears to be a problem because you have high rates of speed and people really aren't channelized. They don't really know where they're going and there's driver confusion. So we've spent a lot of time on this. And I think what we finally have developed, I hope this is the final, is changing those roadways to one-way each way. So the one Fairview Avenue extension where you see the arrow pointing north is going to be in a northbound direction, so limited to one-way traffic only. The other side will be southbound only. There's going to be a reduction in that road width, really just to channelize traffic, slow people down, some striping in that area. We're also proposing a three-way traffic control at the top of the hill. So this is a three-way only. So if you're traveling on Fulton Street, you're going from Route 9 up to 9G, you'll have full movement. So there'll be no stop sign for you there, but all of the other directions will have a stop sign. So 1, 2, 3, there's 3 stopping movements there. In addition, we've been working with Marist College on a sidewalk plan. So we are going to be connecting to their sidewalk system that they're also installing down Fulton Street. So our sidewalk will be on the south side of Fulton, and it will connect to where they're doing their improvements. I think it's 50 Fulton Avenue. Like Marist, we'll also be working with the town in reducing the width of Fulton Avenue. And as everyone knows, cars speed down here. And we've come up with a plan with all of the consultants to take the roadbed and actually narrow it down and use a portion of that for sidewalks. So hopefully that will help affect the speed of people going down that road. The other changes have to do with, we'll go over to Cedar Avenue. So this is on the other side of the project. We were originally proposing that this was going to be an ingress only, so from West Cedar into the project only, and it was going to be a controlled entrance in that particular area just for emergency vehicles with some bollards or some sort of gate. One of the neighbors came to us via a planning board meeting and said, well, she's historically used that driveway to get to her property. And we wanted to see if there was a way that we could work with her to keep that entrance open. So what we're doing, that's where her property is, and that's about where her entrance is to a garage that she has on the property. So we modified this ingress only, so it's ingress only for emergency vehicle, or for vehicles for our project. However, we've created a small arrow, or a small area where she'll be able to get in and out of her driveway. Okay, these are just some representative building renderings, and of course, these have been presented to the planning board and will be subject to their final review. They're 4-story buildings. We think they're very attractive designs. And this was just to give a perspective of what they might look like if you're on the property. We've discussed at length the property management of this facility, and it's certainly been something that's been discussed with the planning board, not necessarily we don't need to go into great length with this board unless you have some questions, but we looked at 5 of the leading property management companies in the Northeast. And so we've spoken with several of these, and we've decided that we'd like to work with United Development Group. Now, United Development Group is a 40-year-old company based out of Troy. They've had significant experience managing commercial and residential, multifamily residential properties. They will be on site. They'll be residing on site. They'll be 24-hour day, 7 days a week on-site management. They'll develop all of the rules for leasing, all of the rules for occupancy, and enforcement of all of those internal and all of the local regulations. So again, this is just a kind of a snapshot of where we are. Just to conclude the presentation, I can leave it up there in case anyone has any questions. Richard?
If I may continue on a few points, Richard Cantor, T&N Constantino for the applicant. The issue before you this evening is the request to amend the zoning map to place the PROD zoning on the project property that Kelly has just described. I just want to address some of the comments that have been made. This is market rate multifamily housing. It's not student housing. It's available to tenants who are able to pay the rent and have a history of being responsible tenants. There is no agreement with Marist. There is no agreement with the community college. There is no agreement with culinary. It's market rate housing available to the public. It fits within the purposes of the PROD. There was also discussion about a pilot agreement, a payment in lieu of tax agreement. The town code recites that the town board shall require, as a condition of any PROD approval, implementation of a payment in lieu of tax agreement between the applicable owner and the town that provides that the owner of the PROD project shall make payments in lieu of tax to the town in amounts and for such term as may be approved by the town board. It being the intent of the town that the cost of providing school, fire, police, ambulance, and municipal services to the PROD project is to be borne by the owner. To that end, and there have been assertions that that language is unenforceable. First, there was some discussion at your recent meeting about the possibility of amending the law to remove that provision. The applicant has no position on that issue. That's an issue for you as the members of the board. As we sit here this evening, asking for your approval this evening, that provision is in the law. We have crafted a proposed pilot agreement. I've been reviewing it with Josh Mackey, your attorney, on this matter. In my opinion, it's enforceable. I believe in Josh's opinion, it's enforceable. It says, in essence, 2 things. 1, this owner, if and when this project becomes tax exempt, will pay contractual payments equal to full taxes, whatever the full taxes may be from year to year. The second thing it says is this owner will not sell to any tax-exempt organization unless that tax-exempt organization agrees to make contractual payments equal to full taxes, whatever they may be, from year to year. There's nothing unenforceable about this owner saying that if the property becomes tax exempt, there will be contractual payments equal to full taxes, and there's nothing unenforceable about this owner saying that it will not sell to a tax-exempt organization unless that tax-exempt organization makes the same agreement to pay a sum equal to whatever full taxes may be from year to year. We believe that that agreement satisfies the language which I read from your PROD language. Because there were concerns stated that this is really student housing, and it's not, Josh also crafted a restrictive agreement which this applicant is willing to agree to and put as part of the chain of title that will apply to the property, and any subsequent owner that recites that this property owner will not restrict the occupancy of the property to any single category of user, be it students, be it substance abusers, be it anybody, that it's open to the public, and that agreement will follow the property and apply to whoever owns it. Similarly, there's nothing unenforceable about this owner agreeing that it will not limit the occupancy to any single category of user, and that it agrees that the property, if it's transferred, will carry forward that same restriction. So our assertion is that the concerns about student housing are unfounded. Our assertion is that we are proposing to comply with the pilot language of the code in an enforceable manner, so long as the language is there, subject to whatever you choose to do with that language, that we're going the extra step of agreeing to a restrictive covenant to prohibit a single category of users. Final point is that there was a lawsuit commenced by the Fairview Fire District challenging the adequacy of the environmental review by the Planning Board. It's a lengthy set of papers, but in essence, it argues two things. One, that the Planning Board, in carrying out its environmental review, failed to take the required in-depth look at the impact on fire services, and two, the same argument as it concerns traffic. In my opinion, there is a good defense to that, and that the Planning Board did do what it was supposed to do. I believe your attorneys share that opinion. That will be resolved by the court. But the important part for this evening is there's nothing about the commencement of that lawsuit that stays or stops you from proceeding, if you choose to proceed, that stays or stops the Planning Board from proceeding if the Planning Board chooses to proceed. The Planning Board can't proceed unless you first place the zoning on the property. So I'm hoping that those comments shed some light on some of the earlier discussion. Thank you.
If I could just, I just got a couple points. One, I have a lot of respect for you, Mr. Cantor, and whenever someone says that, that usually follows up with an issue that may have, but in regards to this project and it being market rate housing, you can say whatever it is, but this project originally and continuously has been presented by the applicant and I think others as a solution to the student housing issue. So to say that this is geared towards market rate housing, and then your consultants that you went to look for to manage the property were campus this, student that, campus that, it looks like all the consultants are consultants that have experience in student housing. The layout of the housing, my understanding is it's 4-bedroom and 2-bedroom suites. I also, from what came through the Planning Board, I'm not sure if this is correct, but a very small percentage of housing built in this county has been 4-bedroom apartments because it doesn't really fit a general need in the county, and the number of people per housing unit is generally, I think it's 2.3 is the number that I saw. So your statement that we have your assurance that this is market rate housing, it's not student housing, it's in conflict with everything that's been presented on the front end of this. when when we keep spinning around, I honestly just think you should call a spade. If it is student housing, call it student housing.
Well, I think,
And that's just, again, you make an absolute statement, but your absolute statement is contrary to statements that have been made by your client and their consultants over time. And, I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, but the presentation of this has been to address the student housing issue.
well, I think there's a need for,
Art, but it's also open to anybody who can pay the rent.
But it's just, we're standing, it's almost like, I just feel like it's.
Is it
I don't
majority
think
of it
there's
goes
any
to
doubt. I
possible?
don't think there's any, I've said this publicly numerous times. I foresee the majority of tenants in this complex potentially being students.
And
I don't
my
have
only-
a problem with
My only
that.
point is, I still,
But
I
I
don't
think the-
understand I don't understand the keep saying.
But I think the point is, but on the other hand, if you had, say, 3 young entrepreneurs or 3 young businessmen who wanted to, well, hey,
Well, my only question,
I
I guess my question, Mr. Cantor, is
probably better that than
why is it that you insist that
seniors.
it's market rate housing and it's not student housing when everybody else has been saying the
because
opposite?
it's available to
Let me
the
very-
But
public.
what is it that we're trying to work around or work through
let
with
me-
that statement?
let me briefly-
If it is student housing, what's the problem?
Okay, let me briefly reciprocate by
And
saying.
wait, let me just, I got a few more things. The pilot agreement that's been proposed, has anybody on the town board seen that pilot agreement?
No.
Which I think, before we go ahead and make any decision on this, we should understand what the proposed.
Well, I think that,
Because
you don't have to do it on the front end. This is an agreement of the pilot.
We had this issue the last board meeting where something was handed to us an hour.
The fact of the matter is, the pilot payments are going to be equal to the full taxes.
The pilot agreement, if there is one that's proposed, it's been put out there.
If there is one.
It would have been helpful for this board to see that on the front end, not after the fact. If you're asking us to make a decision on something, it makes sense that if you have that information, if you shared it with certain people, that you allow us to see it on the front end. The enforceability of the pilot agreement, I wouldn't expect you to say anything other, Mr. Cantor, based on the fact that you're representing the applicant, that it's fully enforceable if that's what the party line is. Our own attorney has questioned that, at least one of our own attorneys. I haven't heard anything from our own attorney saying that the pilot agreement was enforceable.
We had discussion about this at the last meeting. The fact is.
And I thought it was questionable based on what you had said.
Well-
But our own attorney, our own town attorney came back.
Well,
with
I think,
that the enforceability was questionable or it was not enforceable, is my
I think
right?
that was early on, I think.
Right, but if that's changed, it would be helpful for us to be advised that, not, again, you're working out there and you're coming
I
back
think
and
he's
asking
trying
something.
to address it.
Well, no, again, last board meeting, I said it would be nice to get something on the front end, not an hour into the meeting. So we're once again into the meeting and we're being told there is a pilot agreement and we're pretty much done, we're happy with it. But as far as I know, we haven't seen it. And that's somewhat problematic.
So as late as this week, Mr. Cantor and I were adding language to that pilot agreement, which he mentioned earlier, provisions that would bind the applicant with respect to future conveyances, that they would not be able to convey it to anybody else unless the purchaser also signed a pilot agreement.
But I don't,
That effectively.
based on my interpretation of what
applicant to
provided to
liability.
us previously, I got the impression that you couldn't put language restricting the transfer of property to a not-for-profit. That's the impression I got from what the case law out there was. So I guess if you have case law to the contrary,
That's not
Mr.
what
Cantor,
we're
it would be helpful to see that on the front end, not after we've been asked to make a decision.
If I may very briefly reciprocate by saying I have the highest respect for you, Mr. Krakauer.
Thank you.
We disagree.
I figured we might.
Mr. Cantor. Mr. Cantor.
Okay, I think, and again, that's not for me to put words in Josh's mouth. I think if you ask Josh the direct question, whether in his opinion, the agreement he and I have worked on for this pilot is enforceable, based on my conversations with him, I believe he will tell you it is.
The other point that I want to make is I do have, you raised the issue of a lawsuit that was recently filed. I've heard of the lawsuit. I haven't seen any of the paperwork or any of the documents regarding the lawsuit. And while, again, I appreciate your legal opinion that it's not an issue, it's not a problem, and you don't feel that it will be a problem, again, you represent the
No,
applicant.
the town received those papers.
No, but has anybody on the
Certainly.
town board seen that?
I've seen
that
them. I
lawsuit?
mean,
Well, here's my only concern is we're getting into a lawsuit that's dealing with a secret review. The secret review was done by the
if
planning.
you
board.
want to fall prey to every Article
the only thing
78 lawsuit that's thrown at us, this,
But the only thing I'm asking for
I
is.
think every development
Suggesting is that-
opposition has a little money will do that.
The only thing that I'm suggesting is if this town board is going to make a decision on something and there's a pending lawsuit regarding the secret review, that while it was done by the planning board, it's done for the town of Poughkeepsie. It would be helpful for this town board to see that lawsuit, to understand it, to have spoken to our attorney beforehand to get some sort of legal opinion, which I don't think we have. I haven't, so I don't think anybody else has. And in regards to where you have the complete respect for me, I have complete respect for you, but you don't agree. There was an instance where we did agree on something regarding student housing, and that was Dutchess Community College. And my concern would be if this is market rate housing or potentially student housing, and issues raised in that lawsuit are similar to issues raised in the Dutchess Community College litigation, which this town brought against the community college, and Mr. Cantor represented this town in that litigation, it would be useful to see it on the front end to understand what's involved.
Okay, the
All
issues
I'm
have
telling you is
nothing-
that I don't have any of this information, so to make a decision on the prod.
Well, look, if,
So now-
Stefan, you knew this was on the agenda tonight, you knew, the lawsuit was in the paper, you received emails, you can't sit here on Wednesday night after not coming to the town hall.
The pilot agreement that was proposed that he said
I'm
is.
not talking about the problem, I'm talking about the lawsuit.
The lawsuit just came in.
I know.
I was under the presumption.
But we can hold
I was
everything
under
up
the,
indefinitely.
no, but I was under the presumption that if we were going to be dealing with a lawsuit, we'd be discussing it in the executive session with our attorney.
If
I
you'd
haven't
like
seen
to
it-
do that, we can go to executive session and everyone can look through
the
the
only thing I'm saying-
lawsuit that's.
Stefan, at the end.
The only thing I'm saying is we haven't
I
seen it.
know what you're
to know that-
saying, and what you're doing is trying to put obstacles in the way so the town board, do you call some question in the town
No, the
board
board-
members' minds as to whether they can act on this tonight or not? I think that's what,
At the end of the day, Stefan, this is
Cantor.
a project. It's going to benefit the Fairview Fire District. They're going to get paid 100% taxes for years to come. So whatever's in that lawsuit, it's got to be something that they feel is not enough. But 100% of taxes is what
in terms of the,
But we
gotta
should,
pay.
we should see that.
Well,
before we.
I don't really,
I don't
in my personal opinions, I don't care if there's a pilot or not. I think some of the comments of the town board when this first came before us was, there was an anxiousness or a degree of a desire to have this pilot in the language. As far as I'm concerned, this can be market rate, property paying full bore.
My
pilot
question
or
earlier was,
not.
I don't know why we keep having that discussion. That's why I'm saying, I don't know why.
Change it, I think.
I'm not sure why it keeps putting out there that, don't worry, this is just market rate housing. I've never said that I have an issue with it as student housing or market rate
Because
housing.
I think it's
But that's why I say, I don't know what the
public.
issue is that's being worked through or worked around with that.
Mr. Cantor.
I just think whatever it is, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I mean, you
agree with you.
Mr. Cantor,
Yes.
I've spent some time with our Director of Development just so I can understand, being newbie on this board. If I understand this correctly, the whole reason with the prod is to have the payment in lieu of taxes, which is to somehow guarantee or protect the taxpayers in that area of town from having this property all of a sudden become nonprofit. Is that the sole reason for your application to the town to have this overlay district?
No, the reason to have the overlay district is to allow this project to comply with the zoning. Without the overlay district, this project would not comply with the zoning.
By the number of residential
By the
units
use.
on the square footage of the property?
By the use itself.
Okay.
This use would not be permitted
Residential,
on this property
multifamily.
unless the property were zoned PROD.
Okay, so your application tonight, what we're supposed to vote on tonight is whether or not the prod would be applied to the property.
Right. The
Has nothing then to do with any protection for the taxpayers with respect to the property eventually going into a not-for-profit organization?
It does, because the language in your zoning code that establishes the PROD zone says that one of the requirements for zoning a property PROD is to require that it has a payment in lieu of tax agreement to make sure it pays its full taxes.
Just as a point, if we're going to do something here tonight, the resolution doesn't have anything regarding the restrictive covenant. I don't believe.
Yeah, I've got,
So the resolution that's been presented.
Mr. Cantor,
doesn't
in
address
your
that.
opinion,
right, we've got some
in your
amendment.
opinion, you're the applicant, in your opinion, is a restrictive covenant, as we're considering to be placed here, is that enforceable for the length of time of any owner or any future owner?
Yes, if that were a restrictive covenant that prohibited occupancy on the grounds of gender or race or religion or some other prohibited category, it would clearly be unenforceable. This covenant is of nothing like that. It's simply saying it's been offered. We're happy to erase it. It's been offered because there were concerns that this was student housing in disguise, and that this property might be turned over to Marist, and that we were putting a disguise on this property.
I don't recommend that you erase it. I think you should have it. It's a second layer of protection.
I was going to ask you that, the follow-up question being, what does our council say with respect to that?
It was my idea.
Well, that answers that question. By the way, I think there's an organization would be very interested in several floors of your 4 bedrooms. It's on Hamilton Street, the Dutchess County Jail.
Ouch.
You could put a corrections officer in the middle.
Don't let
and
Stefan
protect-
hear you say that.
All right. So what is the mix of 2-bedroom suites and 4-bedroom suites?
They're not suites, they're apartments.
Apartments, 2 bedrooms to 4 bedrooms.
Furnished, correct?
No.
Don't say
Are
that.
they planned to be furnished?
We were initially planning on furnishing those. I'm not sure if we're going to continue to do that. I'm just going back so I can get you the breakdown. Okay, so.
I mean, it is what it is. It just kind
in
of, it
building
seems
A-
strange to me that we have this
Okay.
conversation about something that, it's
Well,
A and you
Ann
keep
asked
calling
me
it
a
B.
question, so I just want to
Okay.
try to answer it. In Building A, there's 15 units. Of
Okay.
that, there's 11 4-bedroom units and 4 2-bedroom
Okay.
units. In Building B, there's 78 units. It would be 56 and 22. In Building C, there's 58 units, so it would be 41 and 17.
And do you have an idea of prices yet, or is that still way
We
down the
don't.
road?
I mean, much
Okay.
of that is really predicated on what the market will
Right.
bear and the construction costs. So I
Okay.
think a lot of that is going to be developed in the not-too-distant future.
Did I answer your questions, Mr. Carlos?
My main concern was, the little bit of legal knowledge that I have, is that we can't have a covenant which restricts a future owner as to what they can do with their property. No more than we can have a covenant that would restrict the pages from whatever they want to do with their property, if it's applicable or comes under the zoning law. So therefore, I understand why the prod has to be applied, otherwise you couldn't build this at all. And I think the discussion of the pilot takes us off track, because it has nothing to do with the fact that a person who owns a building or a piece of property wants to develop it in a certain way. If that's not matching our zoning laws, and the applicant comes before us, that has to have adequate consideration. The idea of the pilot, or the pilot payment in lieu of taxes, as being attached to some kind of deed or covenant that's going to last for a long time, I don't.
Well, the pilot doesn't, that's a separate agreement. That's a standalone agreement, which is in essence a contract between you and the applicant. The declaration of covenants is filed with the county clerk. It'll run with the land, attaches to the deed.
Okay, and that's the one that says, the covenant to the land is the one
Actually
that
says
says
the
it
opposite.
can't be sold to a not-for-profit unless they agree to pay the full taxes?
No, it doesn't. The pilot agreement says that in so many words. The restrictive covenant or declaration of covenants is actually the opposite of what you're concerned about. What it says is that this property will be available to the public at large, and not one particular class, group, body, association of people. Sounds a lot like fair housing language. It ensures that whoever owns that property has to rent to John Q. Public, and not just one particular group, whether it's substance abusers, whether it's students, whether it's
Town board members,
Mother-
anybody.
firemen.
Told you.
Restrictive covenants are quite common. I mean, the development by me, there's a covenant on that says houses of a certain size must be built. You're not allowed to build smaller.
Exactly.
You're not allowed to put your satellite dish in the front yard. I mean, they're commonplace.
Can I ask this question again? Why is it that we can't call it student housing? Or why is it that you're not calling it student housing?
The reason you can't call it student housing is because it's inaccurate to call it that.
But would that be a problem under the current zoning? Is that,
It's not what it
Yeah,
is.
well,
would that be a problem under the current
a
zoning since we're
member of
using
the
it
town
as our
board named
town mechanic?
Krakauer asserted at the last meeting that if this were student housing, it would not fit within the purposes of the PRODZ
I think that was the
zone.
second ward councilman that had suggested
No,
that.
I believe it was a gentleman named Krakauer, but I
don't
may
know.
be wrong.
No, what I did was, it was me.
yeah.
I said, the PROD
Focus.
specifically says, working individuals, couples, families, and seniors. It does not say students. So then the argument is made, well, what's a four-bedroom apartment to do if in our population for the whole county, there are very few people that need four-bedroom apartments?
So is that why we're calling it student, market rate housing?
Because if we don't call it market rate housing, and we say that
Well,
it's not coming
And
under fraud.
I agree, but.
But is that what we're doing here?
Well, but let me say this. If you guys are concerned and you want to call it market rate housing, we can deal with this tonight. We can either nay or vote it up or down, and then we can, on the 15th, schedule a public hearing to change the language of our prod.
Well, my question is just why is it
Doesn't-
become a market rate project?
I think so it can fit within the
There's
prod
a lot of people in this-
designation. I think
there's
it's clear.
I
But
think-
if we need to change the prod, if you'd prefer it to say.
I didn't understand that prior to last
That'd be
week.
my guess, but if you're concerned about that and you'd prefer not to have it market rate and just designate it to seniors, or to seniors,
I
to students, I don't have a problem with that either.
Again, I think it is what it is, you call it what it is. It just seemed strange to me that we kept having this
Well, I think the
discussion
point
of
is
market
if-
rate housing
if-
when it's been presented as a student
you have
housing
a-
project.
Just to summarize the points, Mr. Cantor, number one, for the person who owns the property to go forward with the development of housing,
This project,
this project,
this multifamily
there has to be a
project.
prod put over the property to qualify for the zoning,
Yes.
That's correct.
okay? And all the rest of the discussion after that point about covenants and
Yes.
payments in lieu of taxes has nothing to do with this matter right now.
Yes and no. The pilot, the payment in lieu of tax, has to do with the PROD
Just
zone.
because of the way the prod's
Because
written right
that's
now.
required
Okay.
in the zone.
Would we,
Us uninitiated people have a hard time following some of this convoluted
Right.
stuff. And I just want to make sure that what we do, when I was a young student at Dutchess, the apartments on Innis Avenue, a lot of our young contemporaries had apartments there. And I look at that now, and I look at the piece of property there, and whether or not that kind of housing is what we'll end up with there, I don't know. I think the marketplace is going to tell you, if you don't get the demand for four-bedroom apartments, you're going to have to change the walls or whatever you're going to do to sell the property. So if the students come, students are entitled to rent an apartment the same as anybody else. I'd rather have it market-driven for you. And I am very concerned that somehow it comes off the tax rolls. That's not a good thing for the people in the north end of town and the Fairview Fire District.
Which is why there is, at the present time.
That's exactly why the language is like it is.
Agreement.
And I understand that now. Thank you.
Again, I would just continue to ask, if you're going to draft up agreements for the town board, you let the town board take a look at them before we're supposed to be voting on things.
I have passed it
just-
along.
it's-
Mr. Krakauer, we're in a, I don't care whether you ever hire me again, to be honest with you. We're in a public meeting right now, and you're suggesting somehow that I didn't do my job.
I'm just
I'm not
saying-
going to let you do that.
I'm saying in general, it's.
I passed along those agreements to who I thought I was supposed to pass them along to. If they didn't make it on your desk, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'll give you my email and my card. You can
Right.
call me anytime you want.
I apologize because I'm not, I went like that.
You're not gonna talk
I'm
to me
directing
like
it.
all right, let's
Like that,
try to
right?
refocus here.
Just as long as we're clear.
I understand it.
We're only voting on,
I think, Bill, Bill, I think you're absolutely right. The language of the pilot language is in the PROD zoning, so we have to, right at this point, discuss a pilot. The town board has the complete, within its discretion, to remove that pilot language anytime it would like, and say this property is just going to, instead of a pilot, a full tax, just going to pay the taxes. The reason that pilot language is in there, the reason we're talking about restrictive covenants, was the previous discussions about what if a not-for-profit buys this property and tries to take it off the tax rolls. So that evolved into pilot language, restrictive covenants,
We were looking
and that's kind of why we're where we are.
The residents in that. That's what that's all.
yeah, I had a very good discussion with Neil from our development, and he said the same thing I said. I just took my daughter to college. Well, she's out now, but when I took her to college, you start looking at housing. We've had one tragedy. This housing is going to be sprinkled. It's going to be protected. There's going to be people there. I mean, as a parent looking, if I was a Marist parent or a Dutchess parent or a Timbuktu College parent, I'd want something like that for the child to be in, especially if they didn't want to be on campus.
It's not college housing. It's not
But-
student housing.
No,
I kind of think that we don't have any
The market, I mean,
in the matter with respect to
if you
the
want to
prod,
club
because
student
I
with
think
10,
it's a
we've got
reasonable
change the
development of the
line.
property.
Up to you.
And
I know you don't like it.
regardless,
Yeah.
I think it's going to be successful. I don't think they're going to want to sell it because they're going to make money on it. It's going to be a successful development. It's going to be useful. It's a good fit
let
for
me
the
ju-
area.
Call the question on the table.
Yeah, I think Ann's right. And I will say, in regard to student housing, I hope a lot of Marist kids go into this complex, because currently, we have a very serious problem in the town of Poughkeepsie, as referenced by the chief of police a month and a half ago. We have a serious problem with student housing in the Fairview area right now, a serious problem. We're expending a lot of resources of all the taxpayers in the town of Poughkeepsie, whether you live in New Hamburg, in Hagentown, or in Fairview, trying to control this situation. I personally hope Marist students living off campus find this layout, if this is approved and built, they find it attractive, they move into it, because I think it'll be easier to control than what's going on currently. As of Monday, our community police officer advised me he has visited 80 residents in the Fairview area that currently house students, and he's got more to go. He thinks he'll be somewhere around 100 when he's done. There's still going to be demand for student housing off campus. There's still going to be a demand in the single-family homes, but my hope is that this will attract a number of students, because I think it'll be more easily controlled, there'll be on-site supervision, it'll be safer for the students, and, that's been my position all along. We have this is a public hearing, so I've got to see if there's anyone else in the audience who wants to speak to this point. Is there anyone? Yes, come on up. You can sit right there, and you just swing the microphone right in front of you, and you'll be all set.
That's good, too.
I guess the applicant doesn't want to sit next to me. My name is George Lithgow. I'm from Jacobowitz and Gubitz. We represent the fire district. We did bring the lawsuit, and we want to emphasize it is not about delaying this applicant. There are reasons that you've articulated why this project is going to be good. It's going to pay taxes, at least in the foreseeable future. It's going to provide safer housing. Those are reasons to provide housing for students. To the point of whether it's student housing, that's a different issue. But the district is not here to delay. Its paramount primary concern is safety. Our concern about delay is that we are having an incredible amount of projects being proposed in the Fairview district that is going to add approximately 40 to 50% to the population of the district. It's going to also add increased population during the day, because Marist is building new academic buildings, they're developing programs, there's going to be more people on the campus during the day, and that's when we do our primary response. It isn't an average during the day. It peaks, it ebbs, but when we have to provide a response, we provide it to Marist, we provide it to the Route 9 corridor, we use Fulton Street to get there. That's why we're concerned about the traffic impacts. I've submitted the correspondence that we have had with the planning board. We've also submitted some of those documents to you as the town board, because of the concerns we have about the cumulative impacts of all these projects on the capability of Fairview. We have limited resources. As many of you know, we're heavily taxed. That's one of the reasons that the town board did put that prod in with the pilot, is to attempt to deal with the possibility that housing in the prod could become student, not housing for students, but some housing owned by a not-for-profit institution, which is providing it to students. It could still be this project it's an interesting legal point whether a not-for-profit can take a property, use it for its purpose, and still allow some incidental use. It is the law of the land that can happen. So if a not-for-profit decides it fits within the parameters of its principal use, it could acquire the property, I think. One of the concerns I heard tonight is covenants and enforceability. There is, and unfortunately, we haven't had a chance to look at the proposed pilot or the proposed covenant. I know Mr. Mackey's been working hard on that for a period of time. We did have a conversation, I think, at the beginning of the summer about the form such a document could take. We did submit some recommendations to adjust the form of covenant that we saw at that point. I don't know if they've been incorporated into the document that you've been provided, but we would like to see that to have an opportunity to look at it and determine whether it does address our concerns, because that is one of the district's concerns, that this is going to become an impact in terms of demand for services, but at some point it runs the risk that there will no longer be the property tax resources to pay for those services. And we applaud the town's efforts to address that in the prod. We applaud the comments we heard tonight about it. It is certainly helpful to both the town, which has to pay for the police services, and to the fire district, which has to provide the fire district services, to have those resources available to it. I would note that the prod pilot says that the payments will be based on the assessed value. And I know you guys have, in the last couple of years, dealt with a lot of tax certiorieries. We know that there is an estimated value from your assessor. It is possible that there may be opportunity to work with the applicant to address that issue before this project goes forward, so that there is the ability to rely upon that assessed value when we are looking to build the infrastructure we're going to need, because we will need infrastructure, we will need staffing. We've engaged I think it's a nationwide, but it's certainly a regional consultant, the Center for Governmental Research, to look at the impacts that will result from this and to advise us on what can be done to mitigate those impacts. And we do not suggest the responsibility for mitigating all of the impacts should fall upon any particular applicant. But it is essential to look at all of the applicants so you understand what the impacts are likely to be, and so that a mitigation can be designed that's fair and equitable to everyone in the process. Because what you will hear from the next applicant is, why didn't you have Fairview do it? That's just the same as you'll hear, why didn't Pendel Commons do it? The thing that you're asking for. And eventually you're going to get to the last applicant, and there's not going to be mitigation, and the people in the district are going to wind up making those payments. And that is something the district is committed to preventing, if at all possible. We think that when development comes in, it should pay its fair share, and that's what we're hoping to accomplish. I have submitted a letter tonight which outlines the issues that the district faces. Again, the second paragraph starts out, it is the district's goal to protect life and safety. It is not the district's goal to delay, but we have to address those issues, and we believe that is something that should be done. What I would point out is that the district has a consultant who is going to provide a report on mitigation measures next week. It should be here on Monday. We've provided you with the 2 documents that he has submitted already that evaluate the impacts. The mitigation section is going to discuss what can be done to mitigate those impacts.
Can I ask a question about one thing? Do you think that report is going to recommend a lump sum payment in addition to taxes from this applicant?
Not in addition. What the consultant is considering is a way to structure the tax payment that would be made anyway,
okay,
so that it can be utilized For example, if Fairview comes in and adds 5% or so to the estimated service calls, it increases the district's population by 7 or 8%.
Right.
If there was a way to, and that right now, as members of the planning board got a tour a couple of months ago.
Yes.
The district firehouse.
Yeah, I took a tour of the firehouse as well.
And we really have no capability to put in more volunteers, to put in more staff during the day.
If I could throw out a suggestion, which I just kind of slid over there, in order to kind of move this forward.
Let me just answer the
Okay.
supervisor's question. Yes.
In order to move this forward, in spite of the fact that you may think that I want to, the proposed change to the resolution had suggested that the pilot and the restrictive covenants were subject to town attorney approval. I would suggest that that should be subject to the town board approval. This way, this thing can keep moving forward. The pilot agreement and restrictive covenants can be put together, and at some point it would come back to the town board for one more look at it to say, yeah, that's good, no, that's not good. So,
Can I?
Mr. Lithgow, just a question from, I'm not familiar with a lot of this stuff. I understand the problem in Fairview. Fairview Fire District is its own taxing authority, correct?
Correct.
And Fairview Fire District levies taxes on the people that own property up there, whether it's me or whoever, based on the cost they need for the budget for the fire department.
Correct.
Okay. This particular piece of property is a piece of private property. It's a taxpayer. It will pay to Fairview Fire District the assessed value as any other building up there pays.
Well, every other non-exempt building, which is an important distinction in
A
Fairview.
non-exempt building of
50
what? You're talking about Marist being exempt from
We're talking
taxes.
St.
Marist or the
Okay, I understand that.
Or the
But
dormitories.
that's
it
not what this
touches.
project is scoped as and what has been presented. This is a taxpayer. This is going to pay taxes to the Fairview Fire District. In return for those taxes, they want coverage from whatever Fairview's coverage level is. If Fairview can't provide the level of coverage, then should it not raise its taxes more?
May have.
What I seem to think, and I think sometimes a little screwy, this seems to be we need or we want a new fire truck, a new firehouse, whatever they need up there. And I'm not saying it's not a legitimate need. But are you asking the people that own the property now to pay more taxes than you would normally pay?
No.
So Fairview's not asking for an increase in taxes because they're going to pay taxes. What is Fairview asking for?
They're asking for a zoning change.
No, I think he's saying what's the.
No, what is the fire district asking from this?
That's an excellent question, and I can tell you, we do not know the answer yet. That's what the purpose is of having a consultant review that and evaluate those cumulative impacts. The lawsuit that was commenced is basically about whether the planning board should have reviewed cumulative impacts of these projects that are coming along.
Okay, I don't think council will let me discuss the ins and outs of
I
that with you.
understand that,
But I'm concerned about the point with respect to the money, because it appears to somebody from my background to be, well, you're not going to pay enough taxes, so we want you to pay more. Isn't that what this is about? Are we saying to private property owners, we have a lot of cost in our fire department, and it costs us a lot of money to provide the services, and since you're the new kid on the block, instead of paying your normal share, we want you to pay your normal share plus 10%, 15%, whatever number the district is looking for. Isn't that backwards? Isn't the district the one that's responsible to provide the services to their property? And isn't the district then responsible if they need more services to increase the tax rate?
I can tell you one simple answer to that is on the day that property begins service, they won't have paid anything other than the tax on whatever the previous assessed value was. And we'll have to provide that service. We'll not only have to
But
provide
you'll
the
have to
service
provide
on
the
that
service
day.
only till the next.
This is not turning on the water.
Okay,
This
I understand that, but
hiring-
the way I'm not looking at this from prods or pilots or anything else. I'm looking in terms of common sense. Private people own a piece of property. Government, as long as it's conditioned with what's necessary in the neighborhood, has no right to interfere with that. Control it, direct it, restrict it in certain reasons, I think so. But in terms of what I see Fairview doing, seems to be, you're not going to pay enough taxes, we want more taxes from you.
No.
If that's not the case, then why is there anything going on here?
There is a law called seeker. It requires that you evaluate impacts, then you mitigate those impacts.
So you're saying that our planning, I can't talk about this, I'm sorry.
Yeah, try not to talk about the law. So look, I have a question for you. And I don't know if you can answer it or not, but for years, really, just to talk about a different piece of property for a little bit, the Psych Center property in town of Poughkeepsie, going back, I don't know, 8 years, 10 years, there was proposals for a large development on that piece of property, also in the Fairview Fire District. Do you know if the district has done any capital planning? I mean, it's been this property wasn't on the radar screen, but the Psych Center's been on the radar screen for a decade. Has the fire department done any planning over that decade to prepare for the new influx of whether it's, we've always said we wanted to see a mixed-use development up there. That's our vision for that piece of property. It's what I think most of us like to see today. Do you know if the fire district has done any planning over that decade to prepare for that kind of growth?
I've lived in the town for 15 years, but I've only been council for 1 year.
All right.
I don't live in Fairview, actually, but I do live in the town.
I didn't even know you're a town resident. Well, I'm glad you're a town resident.
Pay my
You can help
taxes.
pay the legal fees too, so.
I pay my share.
Just kidding. I think that's.
I didn't think you were joking, actually.
All right, that's just a question.
I trust my assessment will not go up unduly.
No, I don't. I certainly hope not. Kathleen's sitting right behind you, so if it does, you can talk to her.
The Fairview Fire District?
I said I do not live in the
doesn't.
district.
Oh, I
I
didn't
do
hear
live
that
in the
part.
town.
Okay.
And I do pay my taxes.
Okay, well,
So, I mean, basically, what I would ask tonight, you've raised issues, you have discussions, you have some concerns that I've heard. We have a concern to see these documents, to understand how they're going to work. But most importantly, we think, is that we need to get the CGR report. We need to share that with you so that you understand what the impact and the mitigation opportunities are. And, ultimately, it needs to get taken care of in terms of seeker. It's something that you can work with the planning board to accomplish. There are ways to make this process work efficiently, but that is a point of information that does need to be certainly provided to us so we know what our responsibilities are. But I think it's important for the town to have as well. I think your next meeting is 2 weeks, I believe.
yes, our next voting meeting will be 2 weeks.
I don't think it would be inappropriate to continue the hearing till then. Consider that.
If you did it till next week, I'm not here next week.
Beautiful.
We'll have it next week.
Thank
It's up to you guys.
you. Thank you for the comments. Anybody else in the audience wish to address this?
If I may, I just,
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
I do want to look at that provision regarding covenants, and if there is something of concern, I'm going to send it to your counsel, and I assume he will make it available to the board.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Kathy Maloney, and I'm the president and CEO of the Dutchess County Economic Development Corporation. The DC EDC is supportive of this project. The additional 151 new, safe, modern apartments in the community will be served by increased amenities and physical improvements to the area, as outlined in the presentation earlier. With the planned at least $26 million investment, the project will create 12 permanent jobs and 175 construction jobs over a period of 3 years. The benefit to the community is significant, with anticipated property taxes paid over of $800,000 annually. Additionally, there will be a spin-off effect with the purchase of local products, resulting in benefit to local vendors and anticipated sales tax revenue. With the anticipated groundbreaking of October of 2014, they're hoping to have 1/3 of the units ready for fall of 2015 to provide housing for local residents. I think this is a worthwhile project, and I hope you would support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Yes, Doreen.
She just mentioned construction jobs. I don't know how many of those construction jobs will be local, because these days, if you ride past Marist College and Vassar College, there have been union workers outside with their signs that, for various reasons, about some of them also that they haven't hired local labor. So I don't know if those will be local construction jobs. I do have a question, though, how this is, and I don't know, this may have come up once before, I don't know that it was ever answered. This is to allow residential building, because without the prod, that wouldn't be allowed. So is the taxing going to be residential or on the overlay, or is it the underlying zoning, which I think was industrial?
No, I believe it's going to be on the multifamily, and then it'll be more of a commercial tax rate. Well, I think once it's 4 apartments or more, you go to the commercial tax rate.
Okay, so
which is even,
it's commercial, so it's non-homestead then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then the last thing is having 151 units clustered is not necessarily going to solve all your problems with students, because as you're aware, I just sent some town board members an email that there were, in the month of from August to September, approximately 17 calls for intoxicated students to Vassar College. 14 of the 17 were underage. So you're going to be, and plus there were something like approximately 35 automatic fire alarms in that month. So this is certainly not going to eliminate all problems by having.
Oh, no, I don't think anybody
if it is student housing, right? I mean, you're going to have them in
problems.
Right. So you will have
underage drinking is a problem.
Right.
Everywhere.
You will have additional police and fire calls for that cluster. And just the last thing, I think in all of these projects, I've been looking at over the last 12, 13 years, whatever. A lot of times you see we always joke about, well, it's not really a joke, but how there's never any traffic impacts on anything. But also a lot of times you see on the environmental assessment form, what's the impact to community services? And how many times do they answer none? It's highly unlikely that if there was a robbery, you wouldn't call the police, or if there was a fire, you wouldn't call the fire department. So I think all along, if there had been a little more honesty and a little more maybe accountability by the planning board, things wouldn't get to this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Rob, I wonder if you're going to decide to say something tonight?
I was going to save it, my comments were really for later, but amen to Doreen for the last couple of points that she's made. Just my viewing of what I've seen here publicly on this particular item is that when they were showing pictures of multi-level housing, I think Mr. Krakauer, Councilman Krakauer, you got this exactly right. Unless they're talking about elevated buildings, they're not catering to a population of seniors or young families, where they have babies and shopping cart,
I don't know of any apartments in our area that currently have elevators, but
that may very well be, but it doesn't seem that it's catering to a general population or a general need. It seems that they're looking at a specific area. That's just a personal observation. I cannot say that for sure. The only other thing that I wanted to comment on this is that question was posed as to whether or not the Fairview plan, what their long-range planning is, not just for, I guess, for this project and for others.
Yeah.
I kind of think, and I'm speaking as a school board member here, that's not really a fair thing to ask another agency, only because I'm not sure the degree of not just posting in the newspaper, but contact between supervisors and or leaders of the in my case on the school board, it would be a president, and it would be a chairman of, I guess, or a president of the fire board, just to sit down in a friendly chat. Hey, we have this large project that's come up before us, and we'd like you to know. It's hard for other agencies to plan when they don't know what's happening.
Well,
So
I would disagree with you there, Mr. Rubin, but I won't. I would just state that.
that's all right. This is just, it's just a thought.
Our public hearings are on the website. I mean, in terms of the sites and the properties, property I mentioned, that is well known in the area. I would have a hard time comprehending anybody who isn't aware that the Sykes Center property potentially is going to be a major development in the town of Poughkeepsie. As a matter of fact, many residents in Fairview have said to me personally over the 10 years, I hope it is, because we need relief in our fire taxes. I don't know whether they're going to see that relief based on what we're hearing, but that's been the idea. Taxables in Fairview to help with the fire situation and the fire tax problem. The residents in the Fairview area are paying $7.10 with the fire tax. You're in Arlington and I'm in Arlington. We're paying $5.55, and I think I'm paying my fair share. So, there's a lot being paid currently, and the idea has always been the more taxables, the better off we're going to be.
Absolutely. What's New Hamburg per?
I'm waiting New Hamburg? You don't want to know.
Exactly.
Hamburg pays $152.
Not bad.
But they're all volunteer, as I recall. But
Oh, they are,
the purpose of a public forum is just to exchange
I
ideas,
understand.
and this was just mine. So
Yes,
thank
no,
you for the
we always
opportunity.
appreciate your comments. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Casement.
Oh, boy.
Take you to your man.
What happened?
Just do it yourself.
Surgery.
Wow.
I have a question on why are you giving them tax-free status and then getting an agreement for a pilot equal to the taxes? It just seems to be reversing back to where you started from.
It's not a tax abatement. The pilot language was put in there because of discussion concerning potentially having a not-for-profit someday potentially buy the property. So the thought was, if we do a pilot and somehow tie that fee to the land, the not-for-profit wouldn't necessarily either be attracted to the property or be able to get away without paying. There never has been any discussion with anybody on this board and the applicant concerning a tax abatement. That's not the issue.
Oh, this is for the future you're talking about.
We were just looking at once it's built, somebody may.
They'll be taxed when they're.
Oh, they're going to be taxed. They're going to pay their fair share, whether it's a pilot or whether it's non-pilot. They're going to pay whatever their rate would be based on the assessed value. They're going to pay the same as all the other tax Fairview who would have a similar piece of property.
Okay,
Yes.
I didn't understand that. Thank
Yes,
you.
no problem. Anybody else? All right, seeing no one, I make a motion to close public hearing number 4.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Now, we have a resolution, and then we have 5 amendments that are coming to us from the planning board. So what I thought we'd do is it your turn, Mike?
Yeah.
Why don't you read the resolution, and then before you do, be it resolved, add these 5 amendments in as part of the resolution.
Be enacted, Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie, pursuant to a public hearing held on the first day of October 2014 at 7 p.m., Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 1 Over Rocker Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, does hereby amend the Town Code, Chapter 210, titled Zoning, specifically Section 210-21, which amendment is as following: an application addition for designation as a planned residential overlay district for parcel known as Fairview Commons, 66 Fulton Street, Poughkeepsie, New York, and further identified as parcel consisting of 13.895 acres, parcel grid number 616205161788. And be it further enacted that the Planning Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie has heretofore been designated the lead agency and has determined that the proposed action is unlisted action. And be it further enacted that the legal notice of public hearing was posted on September 18th, 2014, and published in the Poughkeepsie Journal on September 20th, 2014. And be it further enacted that the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby approve said amendment as above noted, conditioned upon the following. 1, subject to final site plan approval by the planning board for the property shall be developed in substantial accordance with the site plan for the Fairview Commons project as shown on a site plan prepared by the LRC Group dated February 24th, 2014, and bearing a latest revision date of September 22nd, 2014. And 2, the applicant shall prepare for the town attorney review and approval a declaration of restrictive covenant which shall include language stating to require continued multifamily use and housing available to the general public without discrimination discrimination towards or restricted to any particular group or class of person, this restriction shall be applied regardless of any pilot agreement the town board may or may not require. Such a restriction shall be in accordance with the stated PROD purpose, namely to encourage the provision of housing opportunities for working individuals, couples, families, and seniors as part of multiple unit development. 3, the applicant shall prepare for the town attorney review and approval of town board approval, a payment in lieu of taxes agreement in accordance with 210-21H of the town code. 4, the applicant shall prepare for the town attorney review and approval a declaration of restricted covenant to ensure that non-residential building portion of the development is not later converted to a residential use in accordance with 210-21I2B of the town code. And 5, the applicant shall prepare for the town attorney review and approval by the town board a declaration of restrictive covenant to preserve the proposed open space in accordance with section 210-21I3 of the town code. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Motion passes 6-0 with one abstention. All right, that brings us to the end of our public hearings. What I'm going to do is run through the agenda quickly, and we'll take comments on agenda items, and then we'll move to the agenda. Agenda item number 5 is to set a public hearing date for O'Neill Group Dutton Waterfront Housing Overlay District. 6, to set a public hearing date for a community block grant for 2015. 7 is to appoint a part-time fire inspector, Mr. Peter Longi. 8 is to appoint a new planning board member for the 4th Ward. 9 is to appoint substitute court attendant. 10 is to approve Croft Corners Volunteer Company Halloween Parade. 11 is to accept the resignation of David Delio in the town clerk's office. 12 is to accept a certificate of attendance for Peter Finelli, one of our planning board members. 13 is to approve a walk and fireworks to support Leukemia and Lymphoma Society at Vassar College. 14 is a notification of petitions that will refer to legal. 15 is to retain Josh Mackey as our attorney for the Fairview Fire District versus Town of Poughkeepsie Planning Board et al. 16 is to waive liquor license waiver for YOLO. You Can Only Live Once LLC, which is located on North Road. And then we have a number of special consents. Special consent number 1 is to reauthorize HUD's repayment agreement. We actually did this last week, but we've got some new language that HUD wanted incorporated. It's the same thing, just with their language for the most part. Adrian can fill us in more if there's more she wants us to know. SC2 is the appointment of Kelly Tremper as deputy town clerk to take the place of...
Just to become full-time for
right.
the duration of the year.
SC3 is to ratify a memorandum of agreement based on an agreement with our CSEA union. Town board has to ratify that tonight. The paperwork was signed late this afternoon for that. So I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules for public comments or questions on agenda items.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone here who would like to address the town board? Yes, Doreen.
For special consent item number 1, what's the total repayment and what budget would that be coming out of?
It's $256,000 total. It's in the budget. I can't tell you exactly what budget line it was in. Our repayment is over 5 years, as agreed to by HUD. $50,000 was in 2014 budget. $50,000 in the 2015 budget. To get the exact budget line, you'd have to call tomorrow. I don't know off the top of my head.
All right, so 256 was the total, but you're paying over 5 years?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Okay, so you know what? I make a motion to resume the rules.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, Stefan, number 5.
Whereas the town board has received a communication from the Director of Municipal Development to change the zoning designation of the project known as O'Neill Group Dutton LLC, consisting of 3.88 acres and further known as tax parcel number 606202763508, located at 1 Dutchess Avenue to Waterfront Housing Overlay District, WAD. Whereas the action to amend the zoning map is an unlisted action under the new New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. And whereas the town board has determined that the proposed amendment must be referred to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Economic Development for review and recommendation, and whereas amending the zoning map requires a public hearing, now therefore be it resolved, the town board hereby sets a public hearing on the proposed amendment for November 5, 2014 at 7 o'clock p.m. or as soon thereafter as the matter may come to be heard in the Town Hall, 1 Over Rock Road, Poughkeepsie, New York. And 2, the town board hereby states that because only the town board can consider and adopt changes to the town code, that it is the only involved agency, and the board hereby declares that it is the lead agency for purposes of coordinating the environmental review of this matter pursuant to Article 8 of the Environmental Conservation Law. And 3, the town board refers this matter to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Economic Development for a recommendation pursuant to GML 239-M. And 4, the town board directs the town clerk to notify the surrounding towns of the public hearing pursuant to GML 239-NN. So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion?
I think it's Hood. Hood.
Hood.
Maybe we just.
You're correct.
Not Wad.
It's hard to believe we're talking about public hearings on November, but I guess we are.
Almost there.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 5-2. All right, Ann, 6.
Just the 2 nays.
Stefan was a nay and Bill was a nay.
Be it resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby set the 15th day of October, 2014 at 7 p.m. at the Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 1 Over Rocker Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, as and for the date, time, and place of a public hearing to consider and thereafter vote on applications for monies from the County of Dutchess through the Community Development Block Grant Program for the year 2015, of which the Town of Poughkeepsie is a member. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. This is going to be a project which our recreation director will be here on the 15th, but it's a project that we're hoping if it gets funding and works out, it'll be a joint project between the town, the village of Wappinger, and I think the town of Wappinger for a kayaking, canoe type arrangement along the creek. So
I have a question. With the change of kind of demographics and the bad economy, has that area that's basically permitted into the economic development block grant program, has that changed?
Yes.
What the boundaries are?
A little bit, yes.
Does it include any part of the Fifth Ward at this point?
I don't think so. I don't believe so. It has changed surprisingly for years. It hadn't changed. It did, and we have that information.
Can like a map or something, or the areas just?
Yeah, I know Rec has it, but I'll get you.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Get you a map. Anything else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Number 7, be resolved that the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby appoint Peter M. Longi to the position of permanent part-time fire inspector at a grade 10, step 1 salary of $26.59 per hour effective immediately, which appointment is subject to a probationary period of not less than 8 nor more than 26 weeks per civil service law, and be it further resolved that the town supervisor is authorized to execute and file all documentation required by the Dutchess County Department of Human Resources in connection with this appointment. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Mr. Alonji is here tonight. I had the pleasure of talking to him. I think he'll be a great addition to the town staff. Is there anybody who has any questions or any you'd like to ask?
No, just welcome aboard, and it's definitely a much-needed spot. It's been empty for a few years, and Lenny could definitely use your help down there.
Peter, do you have anything you want to add? Come on up. Come on up. If you do, you just have to speak in the mic.
Sure. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and people of the town of Poughkeepsie. I want to thank everyone for giving me the opportunity to serve the people of the town. I'll do my best to ensure that my job to make places safe, ensure that they are safe. That's my goal, and compliance with the code. And I'm looking forward to starting as soon as possible. Thank you.
And the new guy buys the first round.
Yeah. And another town resident, by the way.
Good.
Thank you very
Welcome
much.
aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Congratulations. Thank you.
Just to clarify, you don't have to buy the first round.
Tim will. Tim
Great
can.
idea, though.
It's nice, but it's
The department head can. See you, Tim. All right, Jay.
Be resolved, the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby appoint Benedetto Paganelli to fill the 7-year unexpired term of Town of Poughkeepsie Planning Board previously held by Robert Gorman, which said term runs through December 31st, 2019. So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
9, be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby appoint Charles R. Lattin, Jr. to the position of substitute court attendant, not to exceed 15 hours per week, the salary of $15 per hour, effective immediately. So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby approve the application submitted by Gerard Phillip and does hereby grant approval to the Croft Corners Volunteer Fire Company to hold its annual Halloween parade on Friday, October 31st, 2014 at 7 p.m., which parade will start at the corner of Hasbrook Drive and Spackenkill Road and travel the north side of Spackenkill Road, proceeding west to the Croft Corners Firehouse at 7 Spackenkill Road, and be it further resolved that the town clerk is in receipt of a certificate of liability insurance naming the town of Poughkeepsie as an additional insured. So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion?
Rain or shine?
Don't know.
Yes, sure. Always seems to be.
Is it?
I don't know, but.
I don't
No
know.
rain
They
date, so.
didn't specify on the application.
Yeah, all right.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Be resolved, Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby accept with regret the resignation of David DeLeo from the Town of Poughkeepsie Clerk's Office effective Friday, September 26, 2014. So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Just like to thank David. He was a great addition, and sorry we lose him, but he just can't.
He has a full-time job overnights
right.
at the hospital, and it's just been, and unfortunately, he
Good to
lost
be.
his mom on Monday as well, which is after the fact, but
We'll miss him.
think about that as well.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Be resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby accept the certificate of attendance from Peter Finelli from Dutchess County Planning Federation for a course entitled Historic Preservation, a copy of which is attached. So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Whereas the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does heretofore receive an application from Vassar College to include a fireworks display at the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society Light the Night event to be held on Saturday, October 25th, 2014, and whereas the applicant has notified the local fire department, and whereas a certificate of liability insurance has been filed with the town clerk naming the Town of Poughkeepsie as an additional insured, now therefore be it resolved the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby approve the application as submitted for a fireworks display to be held on Saturday, October 25th, 2014 at 9 p.m. on the Vassar College property, Raymond Avenue, Poughkeepsie, New York. So moved.
Second.
For a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, Felicia, is this open to the public, do you know?
Yes.
Yes, this one is?
Yes, it is open to the public, yes. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Be it resolved that the town board, excuse me, I think I skipped 14.
Refer to legal.
14 was notice of claim refer to legal. 15, be it resolved that the town board of Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby retain Joshua Mackey Esquire of Eisman, Cunningham, Reister, and Hyde LLP, an hourly rate of $185 for partners, $155 for associates, and $65 for paralegals, to represent the town's interest in a proceeding instituted by the town board of the fire commissioners of the Fairview Fire District et al. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
This is for the, is an Article 78 proceeding?
Yes, sir.
An Article 8, 78 proceeding filed by the Fairview Fire District against the Town of Poughkeepsie Planning Board.
Correct.
Okay.
The only thing I'd like to say, there was an issue where we had litigation resulting from a planning board or zoning board decision previously, and I believe it should be the town's position that the applicant bear the brunt of the legal expenses, that we are the second chair, that we're not leading the
Yes,
charge
I agree with you.
subsidizing the applicant's legal proceedings. So I would just ask Mr. Mackey to be aware of that and make sure that we allow them to spend their money since it's their project.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's got nothing to do with this project versus.
No, I agree with you 100%. I
think that's the game plan.
Mackey's aware of that.
Or
and
Mr. Mackey.
We had mentioned that to him.
Gosh, it's fine.
Yes. So, anything else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Okay.
Be it resolved, the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby acknowledged receipt of request from Glenn F. Kabusta and Associates on behalf of YOLO, You Only Live Once LLC, 260 North Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, for a waiver of a 30-day period for a liquor license application. Be it further resolved, the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby approved the town clerk's forwarding of a waiver and consent pursuant to attached request. So moved.
Second?
Motion and second, any discussion?
Yeah, this is just because I'm new. We're going to reduce their 30-day waiting period. At what point do people who are around this place make a comment? During the 30 days? And if we waive it, what happens then?
Adrian, can you help us out? And you can, we need to move the microphone.
What was the question again? Sorry.
We're waiving the 30-day waiting period for their liquor license, right?
That's what the request is.
Bill, in the past,
I understand we're helping them to be in a business standpoint, but
in the past, if we've had issues with a certain area,
That's
we've made application with the chief, and then he's contacted the liquor authority.
liquor authority,
And we've
okay.
gone after him in that
I just
manner.
wanted to ask the question.
Don't we have-
But I think the 30 days are for new business.
Yes.
We have almost no
I believe so, yeah.
Also giving us input on whether or
Cut down
not
that
had
one.
issues with
This is a new
Yeah, so this
application
is
as
a new
well.
business we're trying to help.
The other ones, we
Okay.
don't have a waiting period on.
The only question I'd have regarding this is, in that location previously, we had live music and they've wound up moving all the tables and they've had too many people in there. So that's the only thing that I'd like to, live music kind of scares me because I forgot the name of the business at the time, it's changed hands so many times, but it was within the last 2 or 3 years where they've had live music in there and they've pushed all the tables and the building department, Tim Sickles, had to go in and close it down. So I'm a little concerned about the live music.
Which building is this?
This is the building to the left of K&D Deli. It was the
The other question I have is.
the Indian place, but before that, that's when they closed it down. So I'm a little concerned with the live music. We need to be.
Well, you wanna hold off on this until the 15th? I mean, you can certainly check.
I'd rather look into that.
The question that I have is,
In there.
what's this property zoned?
It's a
And
restaurant.
No,
It's
but
a
what's the,
Plaza.
but what is the zoning? Is it business neighborhood, business highway?
I would guess it's-
Would it allow a bar or a restaurant just
Well,
because?
they had a bar in there when it was a restaurant, but the
No,
problem.
no, but would it allow just a straight up bar? The zoning? Because my concern is
there's the
proximity,
occupancy,
the proximity to the college could become
Well, that was
a college bar, which would have a whole different impact than
I
a
agree.
restaurant would have.
right. The restaurant had a bar in it, but they didn't have the
I
live
know, but
music where they were dancing in there.
Right, that's why I say when you look at this, it could be completely innocuous.
I think, I agree with you, and I think.
Here's my, I would
like-
just,
yeah.
suggest that we check the zoning to make sure that they
I
would-
think with, as far as this waiver goes, I think this is a formality. I don't even think we have to take action. I think they get it anyway. It's a matter of formality. But I think what Councilman Safon ought to do is check with building and zoning and see if there's any applications before then, because that, I agree with you, but that's a completely different subject. So let's wait.
You only live once, sounds.
Yeah, well, just.
They're
Yeah,
serving
I know.
food, it could be concerning if they're just
I
straight
know,
up serving
that may-
alcohol.
Pound.
It
Probably
could
some
really be.
delicious food, though, they're saying, hey, go out on top, probably.
I make them.
Yeah, I'd like to take a look at this. and
All right,
put
so
it
I
on
make a
for next-
motion, we adjourn this number 16 until the meeting on the 15th.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
All right. So I think, Bill, you're up to 17.
Okay. Resolution 17, be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby grant special consent to the following items.
Yep, go ahead.
1, authorize supervisor to sign HUD repayment agreement. Number 2, appointment, Kelly Tremper, Deputy Town Clerk. 3, ratify memorandum of agreement, CSEA. And be it further resolved that upon the objection of any member of the Town Board, an item may be removed from the list and voted on separately. So moved.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby authorize the supervisor to sign and submit to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development a repayment agreement in substantially the form annexed, with the repayment commencement date to be determined by the town supervisor, and be it further resolved that such acceptance and authorization by the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie is subject to the approval of the final agreement by the supervisor or attorney for the town and the director of municipal development for the Town of Poughkeepsie. So moved.
Second.
Motion is second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Be resolved, Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby recognized the Town Clerk's appointment of Kelly Tremper as full-time Deputy Town Clerk and does authorize the annual salary of $35,552 for said Deputy Clerk effective October 6, 2014. So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Be it resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby ratify the memorandum of agreement between the Town of Poughkeepsie and the Civil Service Employees Association, Inc. memorandum, a copy of which is attached. And be it further resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby authorize the supervisor or his designee to sign the final collective bargaining agreement that incorporates all terms set forth in the memorandum. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I just want to say, I just want to thank the supervisor for his efforts here, Councilman Safone, also for the long effort in trying to come to an agreement with the CSEA, and also the CSEA for finally coming to the point where we have an agreement. We will not, presuming we all vote in favor of this, we will now have an agreement with the PBA, the CSEA going forward. I think they're fair to the union members and the employees of the town. I think it's fair to the taxpayers of the town. So it's nice to see something where it works out. And the supervisor had stressed where in conversations that I had with him that we have really good people, and he wanted to make sure that we got this done. So I think this is a very good result. So yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you. And I agree, just for those who are watching or listening, CSEA has been out of contract since the end of 2010. This is, in essence, a 6-year deal. It covers 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. It carries no increases for years 11, 12, and 13. For 14, which is the year we're currently in, it's a 2% increase. 15 and 16, 2% respectively in each of those years. And the other new item is new hires will now contribute 20% towards their medical. The most any CSEA member currently pays is 15%. So I agree with Councilman Krakauer. I'm glad we were able to deal done. I don't think, it's 100% on either side in terms of satisfaction, happiness, but it's enough to have a consensus to get a deal done. It's, I think, good for the town, gives us continuity and some stability going forward with our employees. And I think it's good for the employees because I think we all want them to understand and realize that we appreciate their hard work every day, and we do have a lot of employees that work very hard for us. So I'm happy we're able to get this done.
I agree.
Yeah, Todd, I agree with you 100%. And, both parties worked hard. This is not a short-term agreement. It took a long time to get this down, and even over the last couple of months, there was a lot of communications between your office and the guys that work on both sides of the fence. And it's nice to see they, came to look and see what went on with times being as bad as they were. Everybody realizing that somebody got something, but realizing nobody can get a free handout. The town's still not in the best of shape going, and the economy's not great, but everybody worked together, and it's nice to see them. And as you said, they're good, dependable employees. When you come into town hall, you're always greeted nice by them and the ones out in the field. So it's nice that this worked out.
Yep. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. That brings us to the end of our agenda. I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules for public comment on town issues.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone who would like to address the board? Rob?
Thank you. Well, the first question I have, Supervisor, this is just my own learning purposes.
Yeah.
You made a statement before on, and I'm glad that we have a new contract with the CSEA, because those folks do work hard.
Yeah.
But you just said CSEA was out of a contract, and unless things are a little different, my understanding is that, at least from my point of view on the school board, that the old, under Triborough, the old contract remains in effect until there is a new signed contract. So is it really true that they were out of a contract?
I don't know. If you would like to rephrase what I said, I'm fine with that.
No, I'm just wondering from a learning point of view.
Their contract a raise or anything like that.
Their old contract expired.
I wasn't concerned about that.
Right. Their original contract stayed in effect. They just didn't get any raises.
Right. No, this was just a learning question for me.
Okay. Their old contract expired 12/31/2010.
And then the terms of those contracts remain in effect until the new contract was signed. Okay.
Yes.
So now, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
That was just for me, as I say, a learning experience. I was out today doing some checking out in our school district, in the Wappinger School District, and while I was out doing tours there, I noticed that in one of our schools that there's a scoreboard and has corporate logos on that. And when I inquired about that, I was told that that scoreboard was donated to the school, to the district. The district accepted the donation. It didn't cost anything. And the part of the donation was that the corporate logo remain on that scoreboard. And it got me to thinking that I noticed on a number of our town parks, there are, like the baseball fields, et cetera, there are advertisements, if you will, along on the outfield wall. And I'm wondering, how does that work? Do we collect revenue on that advertising, or did those folks pay for the chain link fence that goes around the outfield? If at some point you can get back to me on that, I appreciate that.
Those, whether it's soccer, Little League, whatever, Cal Ripken, those are, I believe, generally done by the sports leagues. So the contribution goes back to the league. The league uses that to pay for equipment and supplies. The league also, during the course of the year, helps pay for fencing. They help pay for dirt for the infield. So it's sort of, it's at the town parks. The leagues are the ones who are going out soliciting the advertising, collecting the revenue.
Does the town have to review those ads to have a final yay or nay on it? Or?
I don't think we have. And I mean, I think if anything was inappropriate or anything else, it would be brought to the town pretty quickly. But as far as the scoreboards, I know the Tilcon field, the new field, they're looking at trying to get a scoreboard. And either Pepsi or Coca-Cola has offered to provide a scoreboard at no cost. It has a corporate logo on it, but the reality is it helps to improve.
When I still had Pepsi.
The parks, yeah. And it overall, that money is coming in, going directly to the kids that play in our league. So I think it works out really well. And those leagues are the ones doing all the legwork to find the sponsors.
Absolutely.
It's just like the teams with the uniforms. And
Yeah.
you can sponsor a team, get your name on the uniform, and get a sign. And
Listen, you just can't start putting up billboards on the school properties.
I was told that today, too.
Oh, you are?
The only other thing that I just wanted to say is that I know that we all see this as taxpayers. There are so many different governmental agencies. There's schools, there's the town of Poughkeepsie, there's fire, there's library districts, et cetera.
Yeah.
And I would just ask, I would hope that if one governmental agency has been providing services to another agency, if you will, if they're going to do something for whatever the reason, budgetary, and the actions of governmental agency A are going to impact B, I would like to just, hope that a phone call could be made or something to say, hey, we're going to do this. We don't want to spring it on you in public. We want you to know what's going to happen. So, but in any respect, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Rob. Anybody else? Seeing no one, I make a motion to resume the rules.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Adrian, do you have anything for us for executive session?
No.
You sure?
Yes, sure.
All right. Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Town board adjourns at 8:58 PM.
Yeah.